Welcome everybody, LPR, the Christmas edition, Christmas Eve. We're coming up here, episode 292, the U.S.S. Liberty. A lot of talk about that, a lot of talk about APEC, and we're going to break down not so much the history. We're going to get into a little bit of the history today, but we are going to talk about the question itself, why it matters. It matters to different people for different reasons, but I think it's still important. Let's go.
It goes to the point where, if, for example, if I have less ability sometimes online to criticize the Israeli government without backlash than actual Israelis do. And that's really, really weird, isn't it, Megan?
Things are going to start happening to me now.
I think Tyler is amazing.
And I'm a fan of this show. I've watched several episodes.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you, Tyler. You stink, Tyler.
Never promise crazy a baby.
Oh, I like that. That's a cool idea.
Are either of you homosexuals?
I go both ways. What do you think?
You mean like flaming or?
No, we're not homosexual, but we are willing to learn.
But I do wonder for others, in other cases, whether libertarianism today is just an excuse for many on the right to act selfishly.
Look at me. And then some fat asses in Washington started having opinions. The Olympic Committee started having opinions. You bitch, I know you. You started writing your opinions.
And it just makes me wonder, you're dead, bitch. You know, why are you doing this to this poor guy?
I don't care. I'm a libertarian. What I'm getting is,
Did you vote for Joe Jorgensen or Trump?
Who?
Joe Jorgensen. That was the perfect answer. Thank you.
It's the Christmas Eve edition. I hope we get some people in here. If not, enjoy. This is one that you're going to be able to watch a little bit here. It's a little bit more produced, perhaps. The Reliant K singing Good King Wenceslas or whatever it is. Maybe we'll get struck for that. I should not be. Welcome everybody. Hope you're having a good Christmas Eve. I know maybe this is some people out there still doing some shopping, whatnot. I am done. I just got to wrap some things. So I think I'm good to go. Hope you all are as well. It's the Christmas season and it's upon us. Okay, we are going to go through this. I've done a decent amount of work on this. I had a thought and I put it out there as far as this, the U.S.S. Liberty. And we're going to, there's a hour and a half or so documentary. It's called Dead in the Water. It's a BBC documentary. I actually took that out and I punched it. I edited it up. It's about 20 minutes. We're going to play that at some point because you will actually need to know some of the history. Okay. So recently we've been having, all kinds of people asking questions about the U.S.S. Liberty to multiple conservatives. Okay. It's Ben Shapiro's had these questions. Then Tucker comes out and says some things. So we're going to play, first of all, some of the questions that are on there, some of the way that they're answering. Then we're going to walk through some of the history. And then we're going to talk about why it matters to each little section here. Let's start here first with Tucker Carlson. He's made some comments before. Here's what he said about the U.S.S. Liberty.
What we put up with the attack on the U.S.S. Liberty that everyone's so afraid to talk about, clearly targeted on purpose by a country we're supporting, Israel. And it's somehow shameful to say that? Why? Why is it shameful to say that? Who knows why it's shameful to say that, but it shouldn't be. And until we have some self-respect, not anger or hate, but just dignity, it will continue. In June, for example, during the 12-day war, such as it was with Iran, during that short conflict, there are a bunch of Israeli Defense Force officers in the Pentagon that week. And during that week, ask anyone who works at the Pentagon, they enraged American Pentagon staff by just barging into meetings, giving orders, making demands, and nobody did anything about it. How can a foreign military officer barge into military headquarters, even if invited, but barge into a meeting and start demanding, we want this, we want that, you need to get on this? The more you allow that kind of deeply unhealthy behavior, the more you're going to get.
Okay, so there is Tucker Carlson asking some questions. Specifically, he says, he starts out there with the U.S.S. Liberty. And to me, some of it, the reactions that are coming our way from all of these. Okay, so and when I'll get to some of your questions here, your comments. Scott says, hope you and your family have a great Christmas, Daddy Yankee. Thank you very much, Scott. Jim over here, Merry Christmas, Tyler. Same to you, Magoo. Glad to have you guys in the chat. Look, it's Christmas. If you want to do some gifting, feel free to. Just throwing that out there. Look, I will just throw this to us as well, which is the show's been doing pretty good. I was trying to get 2,000 followers, and since then, we jumped up all the way to 2, and now we're almost to 22. So that's been going well. The views have been going up. So I'm just going to keep putting in the work, people. I really enjoy this. This today, I think, is a little bit more. It's not quite the polished one I had before. I don't have any scripted stuff, but I got a bunch of clips that I'm going to just hear, and I want to set up the narrative. We're starting here with some of the questions and how the reactions go. Let's go to Ted Cruz here, talking, I believe, to Tucker Carlson.
If you're not an anti-Semite, give me another reason why the obsession is Israel.
Why I'm obsessed with Israel. Yep. 3 minutes after telling me that when you first ran for Congress, one of your main goals was just to defend Israel.
Yes.
And I'm the one who's obsessed with Israel. I don't see a lawmaker's job as defending the interests of a foreign government, period. Okay. Any government, including the ones that my ancestors come from. But that's my position. That does not make me an anti-Semite. And shame on you for suggesting otherwise, and I mean that. And that's low, and you know it's low.
So shame on you is cute, by the way, Tucker.
It is. It's not cute. I'm offended.
You want to count how many questions you asked about? What about the Jews? What about Israel? What about AIPAC?
I never asked about the Jews. This has to do with a foreign government. And once again, shame on you for conflating the two.
Absolutely, and I've said that over and over, and I think that interview destroyed Ted's credibility where it should be at this point. Okay, that was a devastating interview. You see stuff like that. I went through some clips over this week, and I found more and more similar to that. It's embarrassing, and part of it is the reason. Look. What does the right talk about Ilhan Omar and those ones, the Palestinian protests? It's all anti-American. They are anti-American over and over and over. That's the way that they push them. So then you have this kind of stuff going on here. I played a clip here, the last one about the debate bros, and it was the, it's that Green Beret guy, and I think I'm going to shoehorn that conversation in here a bit too. It was the Green Beret guy just getting all worked up over Israel, and you're just like... Okay, are you from Israel? I don't think he was. I'm from Germany. Well, my family heritage is from Germany. I don't get worked up about that at all. I watch international cycling as an example. I didn't even pull for Germans in that respect. It's nothing about that, right? My heritage has moved on. I'm American. That's really what it is. So it's odd when you have this. Now, you have these patriotic, they put patriot in their things, misfit patriot as an example. That guy, he thinks he's a patriot, but it's not about America, right? It's always about something else, and it's disturbing. So then when you get all these conservatives doing this, it's more disturbing. What is interesting about, as we're going to set this up here, the U.S.S. Liberty stuff, these are Americans. These are American servicemen, 1967 ship, a research ship. It had like 3 guns on it, I think, small, and then regular holstered weapons type of thing. Yeah, this is not they had no way to really defend themselves. But these are American servicemen before the draft, and they get kind of shit on. Matter of fact, they get called all kinds of names. Let's keep going on here with some more questions, because now it's been pushed. U.S.S. Liberty at AmFest, at some other place, and I want to we'll get some of these questions and the reactions to it. Here is Steve Deace. He's you really look into him. He is a Zionist. He talks about himself not being a neocon. But what did he have to say here? This is a real quick clip of him.
Let's just set one term of the debate. Regardless of what we prophetically think Romans 9 through 11 happens to mean. And there have been great minds all throughout the history of the church who do not agree on this. The one thing Romans 9 through 11 makes very clear, the one thing St. Paul himself, the Hebrew of Hebrews, makes very clear, and my final position is this: you are not allowed, Jesus does not allow you to be an anti-Semitic jerk face. Thank you.
Oh, so brave and big. Look, this is ridiculous. Jim just gave $100 here. It could be $7K, but that would make you gay. Merry Christmas. YouTube won't let you say gay in the super chat. That is crazy. Jim, this is ridiculous. And you don't have to do that to get yourself on the show, but you are going to be on the show. Well, let's set it up over the holiday. I will get you on. I want to talk about the Tyler Robinson stuff. I've kind of backed off of some of that stuff, but that's an amazing gift. I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it. You guys are the best. I just love doing what we're doing here. So Steve Deace comes out, he makes the comments, and it's about name calling, right? That's what you can do. And if you talk about the woke stuff, do I have the book here? Yeah. This is the Babylon Bee's book on wokeness, and it is fascinating because it's devoid of a lot of stuff, which is ridicule of Israel is not considered to be woke, but or defense type of stuff. But defense of everything else is. It's important about your race, your ethnicity, your nationality, all these things. And then they have little flags about pointing it out, and they don't point out Israel. It's fascinating. So Steve Deace comes in here and he makes a comment, about jerkface, and it's name calling. If you were to name call right wingers about being, you don't put a black square for BLM, you're a racist. They're like, oh, you're woke. All these things. But then he will call out the names specifically about this one particular issue. And this is why the questions matter. We're going to keep going through here about why these questions matter. Okay, so Ben Shapiro has been asked about this a few times over and over. And let's see what he had to say about it here recently.
Can I explain the U.S.S. Liberty incident? Sure. The U.S.S. Liberty incident is very frequently used by anti-Semites to
okay, so you've got a name call immediately. It's not even conspiracy theorists anymore. Now it's anti-Semites.
Suggest that Israel deliberately targets American ships and then pays no penalty. So,
as a little slight there, deliberately targets American ships, as in multiple, as in this happens all the time. And we'll talk about why the question matters to multiple people, and it matters to Ben Shapiro. This is his reasoning.
Both American naval records and Israeli Air Force records suggest that there was a case of mistaken identity wherein U.S.S. Liberty was in the Mediterranean in a place they were not supposed to be. Israel thought that it was an Egyptian ship and shot it. That's the actual full story. Now, there are a bunch of conspiracy theories on actually both sides of this. There's a conspiracy theory on the American side that suggests that Israel, for no reason that can be discerned, decided to shoot up an American ship to accomplish no one really can explain what.
No one?
And then on the other side, there is a theory that I have not seen a lot of support for, that the U.S.S. Liberty was being used as a transmission vessel to send Israeli military locations to the Egyptians during the 60s.
What does he mean by the other side? Is he talking about Israel? Because we're going to get into some of this as well. I'm not going to break down. Look, litmus test type of ideas about certain things. Leo Frank is one of them. This is kind of the another one that I've found here. So a lot of the little things when he says the other side. Now, remember, it's premised on this topic is brought up by anti-Semites, but then he gives two sides of it. Is it the Israeli side, the justification for why it may have happened? Is that anti-Semitic?
67 war, and Israel knew that and shot it. Again, I think the evidence is lacking on both of those things. And there have been multiple naval investigations of the U.S.S. Liberty incident. They all come down on the same side, which is that this is a mistaken case of allied, quote-unquote, friendly fire.
Okay, we'll walk through a little bit of that because I think you've got to do that. You've got to give utter incompetence to the Israelis. But here's another one of Ben Shapiro recently getting asked and what he says about the USS.
They talk about the USS Liberty incident. There have been multiple studies, U.S. Navy, Joint Chiefs of Staff, CIA, House, Senate, NSA. Most of the reports, according to historian Richard Brownell, do not assign culpability for the incident. They focus on communications failures. I have to say I'm a little bit bewildered why you're so obsessed with an incident that is now 52 years old. If you have theories that are better than those of the American government, they've got operators standing by. Feel free to dial them and tell them about your 5-decade-old theories about a military incident from the 1967 Six-Day War. It's of direct and vital interest now in 2019.
Okay, but is the Holocaust vital interest? That's little. You can't have it both ways. You can't live your whole life being concerned about, and we're going to play a clip here of Ben Shapiro also being concerned about what you would say is, actually, I think I have it right here. Let's go to Ben Shapiro and his concerns with Israel. Let's play this way.
Wonder if one day you'll have to flee the United States?
I mean, I think that every Jew throughout world history who has a brain and knows history has always wondered if a country that is not a Jewish state is going to eternally provide them security guarantees and full citizenship, of course. I mean, that's I think to think that that's why the existence of the state of Israel is the single greatest guarantor of my loyalty to the United States, frankly. Right? Because Israel exists, that means the United States is going to be a more welcoming place for me, because Israel is there as a backstop in case anything should go wrong.
Okay, that just seems to me to be somewhat of a ridiculous take. Cope a little bit more. But why does he say he fears this? Because every Jew fears this, because the Holocaust, right? You go back in history. History means something. And look, we've been at war and utter odds with the Soviets, which I think has a lot to do with actually the U.S.S. liberty and how reactions were in the Middle East there. And we'll get into some of that. But you don't then just get to say, we get to dispel your concerns. And remember, it's the Holocaust is important, but you also can't do any, questioning of it. So it's a little odd. Plus the fact that you have this deep state issue, which is who did the reporting? The U.S. military did a report, and and we're going to talk a little bit about that, why that seems to be suspect. And then the Israelis did a report, and they both said it was just nothing. Okay, well, I think we've seen this over and over. Both countries have a lot of investment of trying to push things under the rug. Always, right? You're going to, I mean, that's very commonplace. As far as Ben Shapiro not understanding that this perhaps was, the reasoning why people would say this, I think that's very, very disingenuous as well. Okay. Now, Rich Lowry had this question come about, or, Tucker Carlson had said something, so he wanted to weigh in on it here. I'm not going to play his full 7 minutes here, but here is the start. This is used to be the editor of National Review, and he actually puts this out on the National Review website. Remember, these were U.S. 35 died in this attack, U.S. Military, okay, naval officers, or navalmen, okay, including officers as well. 35, I believe. I could get the exact number here in a jiffy. Here we go. It was in the 6-day war, and 34 killed, 171 wounded, and the ship itself was completely damaged. But here's what Rich Lowry has to say about Americans.
The idea is that during the 6 days war, Israel went out of its way, unprovoked, deliberately to attack a U.S. naval vessel, killing dozens of U.S. sailors on board because Israel is such a treacherous, alleged friend and partner of the United States. This has long been a chestnut of anti-Semitic theorizing. With the rise of the woke right, this theory has gotten more currency. We heard it talked about at the recent TPUSA conference. Here's Jack Posobiec.
As Navy veterans, as anyone who serves in the Navy, you learn about, you study, and you realize that we live in a serious world, and it's something that a lot of people in the Navy feel that we never really got full accountability for. Still have a lot of questions about the Navy investigation that was done and the official statements that came out. A lot of people said, just doesn't feel like it's good enough when you have a ship flying the U.S. flag that's being attacked by a country that you are nominally supposed to believe is an ally.
Now, the conspiracy theory here is demented. However, the event actually happened, obviously. 34 U.S. sailors killed, 171 wounded.
It should be noted, I'm going to say, that this, at least Rich Lowry is double dipping here. He calls it first anti-Semitic, and then he says conspiracy theory. So he gets both shots off. So you can't even argue with this anything that's happening.
Just awful. Just an awful scene on the U.S.S. Liberty, which is a spy ship. Now, this is during the 6 days war between Israel, of course, and an Arab coalition, including Egypt and Jordan. Very sensitive. The Sixth Fleet is monitoring the situation. This is during the Cold War, 1967. You don't want a flashpoint with the Soviet Union. During the Cold War, the Sixth Fleet is keeping its distance from the action, but the Liberty, a spy ship, gets quite close to it. At one point, just 13 nautical miles from the Sinai coast, where it can see the actual damage from the fight here between Israel and Egypt. At one point, it requests a destroyer escort, a U.S. destroyer escort, but it is denied from higher up.
I'm not going to give him any more play because he seemed, I swear to God, what he's saying here, how he starts this, and then he gives you a lot of these details, and you're starting to go, okay, there seems, as adventure, look, we'll get into it. This is, once again, name calling is all you can do here. And what these conservatives are doing specifically is taking shots at servicemen, navalmen. Okay, I'm gonna just have to use this. Let me see if I have the browser. Maybe we could do it this way. I found this clip off of another guy. It was just because I grabbed it real quick. I didn't want to use any other way. We're just gonna use his YouTube here, where he plays this clip of this kid asking a question at Ole Miss. I think you got Jared Kushner, one of the maybe the Trump sons and daughters there. Benny it looks like he's there. Let's play this here real quick.
Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the U.S.S. Liberty. Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending Christians, but how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself?
Okay, I wanted to play that for you real quick. And then what we're going to do, we're going to look and see what Ted Cruz had to say about this after the fact and blowing up. Now, that seems to me to be pretty the questions themselves could be easily answered. And that's a big part that we need to understand here, which is at some point, if you were doing honest answering with these questions, look, Rich Lowry started to actually talk about the details, but I didn't want to give him any more play because he started out with, this is anti-Semitic to even bring it up. It's also quacky conspiracy theories, but then he goes into the details. And when you talk, I have not seen a single survivor of the U.S.S. Liberty counteract the military narrative, the Ben Shapiro narrative, the Rich Lowry narrative, any of those guys, none of them are doing that. They're all saying bullshit, even the captain. But here we go. Here's Ted Cruz, what he said about that young man's statement. And, this is actually somewhat defamatory, but here we go. Here is the loser, Ted Cruz, in his pinstripe suit, trying to show that he's some sort of mob boss.
There are pastors who love Israel who think all is fine, and my message to them is go and talk to the teenagers in your congregation. Go and talk to the 20-somethings in your congregation, because they're picking up their phone and they're watching TikTok and they're watching Instagram and they're hearing this message being driven, and it is resonating. And if you want an illustration of this, several weeks ago, J.D. Vance was down at Ole Miss at a Turning Point gathering, and one kid got up, asked this.
Okay, first I want to say, when I had this clip and I'm like, yeah, okay, now let me go find the actual reaction, the question. I watched J.D. Vance's entire sequence of questions. None were asked to him. So first of all, Ted Cruz has his facts wrong about who got the question asked. We just saw the question that everybody was talking about. It was not to J.D. Vance. It was Benny Johnson, Eric Trump, I think were there, maybe the other Trump sister or whatnot. I don't know. He's got so many kids and the Epstein files are coming out. Maybe he's going to have more. Who knows? So Ted Cruz, first of all, has his facts wrong. Now let's see how he more gets it wrong.
Viciously anti-Semitic question. The most horrifying thing to me is what happened in the second later, which is the crowd erupted in applause. Not everybody. My guess is 20 to 30% of the kids there were applauding the viciously anti-Semitic question. A week or two later, there was another event with Eric and Laura Trump at August.
Okay, so I was wrong, but there we go. Now it's Eric and Laura. I'm serious, though. I watched the J.D. Vance one. I could not find that
Burn
part.
University.
I could be wrong then.
A kid got up and said, I can do even better, and asked such an anti-Semitic question. It was filled with lies. Every word of the question was a lie, including and, but, and thee. And again, instantaneously, the reaction was the same. 20 to 30% of the kids began cheering. Now, here's the warning sign to hear.
Okay, before we go there, let's go back because I want to play this question one more time. Why is this not loading up to me? Something went wrong. We'll go in here. I want to play this question one more time if I can. I don't know what's going. Here we go. Let's go back into this.
Quick listen.
Israel has not been a great ally to the U.S. all the way since 1960 when they bombed the U.S.S. Liberty.
First of all, it was 67. Let's keep going.
Israel is a nation where Christians are constantly under attack in both Gaza and the West Bank. We talk about America first and defending
Christians are under attack in Gaza and the West Bank. Okay.
Christians. But how can we do this if we align ourselves with a nation that does not do that itself?
So that.
Okay, so once again, that to me, does that seem like it's just ferociously? I don't know what the word is. Ferociously. Oh my word, anti-Semitic. But let's keep going here. Let's back up, Ted, just a little bit and play this kind of context.
30% of the kids began cheering. Now, here's the warning sign to hear. This was not asked such an anti-Semitic question. It was filled with lies. Every word of the question was a lie, including and, but, and the.
Okay, he said the U.S.S. Liberty won. I don't know if he lied, he just misspoke, but it was in 1967, not 1960. But they did attack our ship, okay? And then Christians are attacked over there indiscriminately. Justin Amash lost family members in Gaza during this war. Indiscriminately. I mean, you can't deny that. Now, does that mean that this guy's right, that Israel should not be our ally and that we align ourselves with it? I mean, possibly, but I don't know that that's a lie. But here you go.
And again, instantaneously, the reaction was the same. 20 to 30% of the kids began cheering. Now, here's the warning sign to hear. This was not a gathering at Berkeley. This was not a gathering at Yale. This was at Ole Miss and Auburn. These are a bunch of big old frat guys that are just looking to make a friend on Saturday night, who have heard the message. We are such a team. We're so polarized. We're so bifurcated. That what worries me is young people that get the message, oh, our team, we hate Israel. That is dangerous.
It's not dangerous. And no one said hate Israel. He said we shouldn't be aligned with Israel. If they're going to treat us this way and they're treating Christians this way and we're a Christian nation, we shouldn't be aligned with that. I think that's entirely a quality thing to say if you are really talking about your Christianity. Ted Cruz said his whole reason for running for Congress was to be Israel-based, right? Israel-based.
I came into Congress to flee the United States
13 years ago. I mean, I think that every Jew throughout world history.
Okay, I'm sorry. I had two things going there. Let's try that one more time.
I came into Congress 13 years ago with the stated intention of being the leading defender of Israel in the United States Senate. And I've worked every day to do that.
Yeah. So there you go. Odd, right? He's a Christian man, and his whole raison d'etre is to be ahead of Israel. Craziness there. Okay, let's keep going, because we're in 28 minutes. I got a 20-minute section. We're going to play the history of this and uncut, and I'm just going to let it go. And I'm going to do that in a little bit. We're going to play a few more clips, and then we're going to get there. I'm going to have two more clips. Ben at AmFest, Steve Deace responds, and then we'll get to this edit of the Dead in the Water. And I think, and I'm going to let it go, because if I get struck on that, I'll just be able to cut it out here. Chris says, it really doesn't matter, though, and the U.S. told Israel it didn't have any ship in the area, just something to give anti-Semites something to harp on. So I think that is, one, disgusting to say about the U.S. military guys. They're not anti-Semitic. They are just gentlemen who got shot upon. And I don't know that your rendition is completely true or not, but it's not good to just call people anti-Semitic because they don't like that a country attacked us at one point. And there could be some confusion there. This thing gets really ramped up and perpetuated, and it's interesting that the reaction here is that from Chris Creative 2245 is to call someone anti-Semitic I don't know where you're from, but to call them anti-Semitic simply because U.S. military were attacked, 34 people killed, and a lot of the survivors are pushing against this right now. They still, I haven't seen one survivor out there say anything else. So let's go. But yeah, I appreciate you in the chat. Go ahead and throw me some money here. That would be good too. You can do that. We'll appreciate it. Okay, let's go over to, I want to see Ben Shapiro's thing here. The question was asked to him at AmFest as well. Why don't we pop this up to get 1.25 speed? Can I even do that? Nope, it's not letting me do it. Okay, let's go.
During your speech, truth as the most important tenet of American conservatism. Why, therefore, did you call irrelevant the Israeli attack in 1967 on the U.S.S. Liberty, which left dozens of American servicemen dead and hundreds wounded?
So what I actually said is that if we're looking at modern Israeli-American relations, looking at an attack that happened mistakenly by multiple Navy reports, multiple Israeli reports, and all available evidence, and using that attack in order to undermine today's relations between Israel and America, that's irrelevant. As irrelevant as it would be to cite a piece of evidence from World War II.
Whoops, let me go back here. Just to throw this out real quick, the answer could be easy, okay? And this is why I'm kind of leading up to it, but there's multiple reasons why this matters, okay? One is the inability of even Chris here. You got to call people, names, and to do so, you undermine your own reasons for just discussing this. Leo Frank is another prime example, right? You go through that. I've gone through all the filings there, read multiple books on it. It's obvious, But it's important that you keep this myth that somehow he was the aggrieved person, that he got it. How could a white man, that's what they called him back then in 1913. How could a white man not be believed over two black men who they called the N-word constantly and were lesser people, right? And then they make up a whole thing about the KKK starting about this. It's because the narrative has got to be protected at all costs, which is ridiculous. My lie. U.S. goes into Vietnam and we do some bad things. My Lai is exactly one of those things. Should we then now some sort of pretend that never happened or that we want to, save face? No. We were horrible in certain circumstances. We've gone back and forth with the Soviets over multiple things during the years, right? You can be friends, you can change this, but why is someone like Ben Shapiro so insistent on keeping the narrative alive that's actually what I would consider to be anti-American? Let's see, I do want to change this and then we'll get to it. Okay, 1.25, let's get back up to where he was, right in here, let's go.
What I actually said is that if we're looking at modern Israeli-American relations, looking at an attack that happened mistakenly by multiple Navy reports, multiple Israeli reports, and all available evidence, and using that attack in order to undermine today's relations between Israel and America, that's irrelevant. As irrelevant as it would be to cite a piece of evidence from World War II or from 1776 to define America's relations with, for example, Great Britain or Germany today. That does not mean that the attack wasn't horrible for the Americans involved, that it wasn't bloody and terrible. The Israeli government paid reparations to the people who were killed. If you look at the actual military record of what happened on the U.S.S. Liberty, it was clearly a mistaken and tragic attack. The people who frequently cite the U.S.S. Liberty, however, are not talking about the specifics of the U.S.S. Liberty. I suspect that the vast majority of people who bring this up are doing so in order to suggest that Israel deliberately attacked an American ship because Israel deliberately wants to harm America. It is connected generally with a larger point. I wonder if that's your point.
First of all, whether they want to generally harm America or not, they're a different country. So we can ask those, and we should ask those questions all the time. We just walked through the completely ridiculous situation with Jonathan Pollard. You don't think his actions were hurting Americans? Of course, right? They put American interests at harm in 1985 when he was stealing all these documents and then, sold them to the Israelis, who then sold them to the Soviets to get Jewish people to be able to migrate. Let's keep going here.
If the truth matters, then the Israeli government must be held accountable for that attack. The American flag was flying on that ship. You do not mistake an American ship for a foreign one when our flag is flying.
So, I mean, we can spend the rest of the time talking about the specifics of the U.S. Liberty attack, or you can actually go look at the naval investigations that were done, multiple naval investigations that were done. The reality is that people were flying Mirage planes for the Israeli military at the time. The U.S.S. Liberty was sailing in an area where it had essentially gone off-grid. The Israeli military mistook it for an Egyptian ship. They thought it was shelling Al-Arish, which happened not to be true. In the initial attack, the American flag was knocked down, and then the attack went on for about 90 minutes, and then...
That's an interesting point. The American flag was knocked down, and then another. How did it get knocked down? It got knocked down because of it was struck, and we'll walk through some of this thing because I think this is you get some more interesting stuff here. Not all the stuff. Nair MD says here, whenever the U.S.S. Liberty comes up and people are so passionate about it, what was the point of that? It obviously was a mistake. I don't know that it was obviously a mistake, and we'll get to some of this here. The survivors of the Liberty were also scammed out of $200K by Dave Garrity attempting to produce the movie Erasing the Liberty. Yeah, so there's a lot of crap. Yes, they did pay reparations, but let's go. I think the passion on the Ben Shapiro side is odd. That's what I'm saying, right? I said that about Steve Deace. We'll play a little bit of stuff from him and this pastor. Ben Shapiro, we've been playing stuff here. Rich Lowry. And even in here, it's like the immediate comment is anti-Semitic. Oh, you're bringing it up for anti-Semitic reasons. Maybe anti-Semites are, but you know how you get rid of that? You stop playing defense for this. Now, we will watch this video of, I want to continue this on here. Let's go here.
Then as soon, you can hear this, by the way, on the tapes of the Israeli pilots talking to each other. As soon as they realize that...
I found that audio as well. Those pilots are talking to each other, excuse me, after the hit happened. Then there's people in the water. They're like, oh, these are Americans and whatnot. There's also a question about possible audio before the fact. We'll
it's an
get to
American
it.
ship. They call off the attack. They speed a ship to try and help the U.S.S. Liberty. There have been multiple unfortunate friendly fire incidents between Allied forces, including, for example, in the Gulf War, where U.S. forces were responsible.
I don't want to get into all the facts about the USS Liberty because I'm not an expert here, but it is a fact that the three bombers or planes came down, shot at him, and then a torpedo ship a sub came in and shot at him as well. So I'm not sure what you're talking about here, Ben. Then there was a ship that they were trying to help him out, but
responsible for killing about 9 British troops during the Gulf War. It's an unfortunate reality of war. But you're not answering my question, which is, what is your broader agenda in asking the question? Because I suspect that your question is not limited to your specific ire over an incident that happened in 1967.
I think we should question any foreign country's relationship with our government.
That's totally fine, but I'm just wondering why you
serve American interests.
Again, I'm perfectly fine with questioning any country's relationship with the United States. But again, I'm wondering what your motivation is in bringing up a 6-decade-old attack as though it is the #1 issue in assessing the relationship between Israel and the United States today.
Well, many problems persist to this day, but it's interesting that you say 6-decade-old incident when there are many people in this audience who were alive for that attack, as if this is something that's irrelevant.
Well, no, it's just not particularly relevant to assessing the relationship between the United States and Israel today, in the same way that in 1967, there are a wide variety of countries.
And then someone comes over to tell her to shut it down. Don't let him talk anymore. Okay, so we're done with that, and we'll get to a few of these questions here. Maybe I'd pop this chat in before we go, because to the next thing here. It matters to Phil Turney, who had to see his shipmates murdered on international waters and had to keep silent for years under court-martial penalty of death. It makes no sense. Friendly fire is a reality of war. Yes, friendly fire is a reality of war, but you know what else is a reality of war? False flags, Gulf of Tonkin, we've seen that, and other things that the other countries do. The question is, why are you so stuck on, and I appreciate this. I do, because I hope you understand. My getting into the Leo Frank as an example was specifically about, like, the narrative seems to be wrong. That's what, some of the conspiracy stuff is. The killdozer. I think the libertarians taking on the killdozer is wrong. This guy was a mental defect. He thought God was telling him to do something, and he was going out there, and luckily he didn't kill anybody. So there is these things, but the automatic defense that you have here of many of the, it's not, it's almost like a delineation of left and right. Okay. Your president comes out and says something, you don't believe it, but now you're going to believe it because he's saying it. That's what it is here. To me, why this matters is it's the reaction. And then you get to sift through the reactions of this. Okay. He doesn't care about that, but 3,000 old imaginary book. Well, I mean, look, I'm not going to go into, people's beliefs, religious beliefs, perfectly fine. Ben can have all his beliefs that he wants for his religion. I have mine for me too. But I would say it's more along the lines of that if you're going to talk about a historical event where people's lives were completely ruined, they were told to shut up about it, because this is legitimately out there, okay? And they were told to shut up about it and not have their recourse for many, many years. And then you're going to go back, though, and live your whole entire existence based on something that happened 30 years prior to that. Come on, people. You can't do that. You can't do that. Okay, so let me see. I got to keep my clips in line. Let's go to the Steve Deace. Another one. He just talked about jerkface. This is a 4-minute clip here. I guess we'll play it here as well. I'm sorry. We're going to just enjoy the day. It's Christmas Eve. We're going to do this one at 1.25 as well. We've got a little bit of time to take. Play it away. This is another gentleman. Let me know, because I think some of the volumes on these things has been bad. So let's boost this up here. And let me know if you guys hear this okay. This is once again the questioning, and it goes not just for the U.S.S. Liberty, but it goes for the AIPAC. And I will put this out there. If the defense was of everybody, especially the conservatives here, the patriots, if they took the position of defending the soldier, the Navy men that lost their lives, and this wouldn't be an issue. If the U.S. military hadn't a shit all over them at the time, this wouldn't be an issue. So if you say it's being used by anti-Semites, the people that are reacting the way that they are only driving that position further, and you're making them wonder, why would you do that? We often do this in law. You ask a question, and the reaction, is not a normal one that a person would have, perhaps if they're testifying. And then that's where I dig in further. I'm like, oh, I've got something here. This doesn't make any sense. Why would you be saying this? That's a really interesting point. And then you dig further, and a lot of times you can find a motive is created out of, an incorrect assumption that someone's trying to make, such as domestic violence. I had a case not too long ago, and it was, Steve Deace here, and it was, accusations against my client that were horrendous. But then you start to say, well, why are you saying this about it after? Anyways, so you can break things down. So oftentimes you get people's real motives. Perhaps the motives of this gentleman that we're going to play this is not sincere, and he really is an anti-Semite. However, as an American who's not Jewish, why is the reaction the way it is? And we're going to watch that here.
That Israel is doing to America. Like, is it AIPAC? Is it collateral damage? Is it Jewish billionaires? Like, what's the greatest issue that they have on America?
I'll take this one first.
Yeah.
The premise of your question essentially says President Trump is a schmuck, to use a Yiddish term. I mean, you're essentially saying that Trump is a schmuck and the tail is wagging the dog, that somehow he's not in charge, and some secret cabal of people are yanking his chain. And then he doesn't know what he's doing. The people leading our government don't know what they're doing. The people are not critical thinking. And so I would ask you, what is the premise of your own question? I mean, are the Jews with you today? Are they there in the room with you? I mean, what's the premise of your own question?
I think there are some issues with Israel. I think AIPAC should register with FARA. I don't know how much collateral damage should be having in Gaza, but there's a certain limit of how many innocent children and women that should not be dying. I agree bad things happen, but there is a limit to collateral damage.
How many limits were there on October the 7th, and when did you post about those limits and your concerns?
You're comparing 2,000 people to 60 to 70,000 people.
What's your evidence of 60 to 70,000 people? Where'd you get that?
Ask any artificial intelligence where you would get unbiased information, and you would find a consensus of that data. And I would also like to hear,
I think that's what you kids today call a cell phone. Thank you for your question. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Did you want to comment on that?
Yeah. The thing that needs to be asserted here is that there's a longstanding statement that the first casualty in any war is the truth. There's the fog of war, propaganda, atrocity stories are as old as dirt. And that doesn't mean that they can't be true, but it doesn't mean that it does mean that you shouldn't go on Instagram and establish the truth that way. So basically, atrocity stories, if it really happened, that's an atrocity. But I want to reserve judgment because lies pour out of
I don't know what the fuck this guy's talking about. What atrocities? Are you talking about the Liberty? I mean, there was a fog of war, literal, at the time. Are you talking about, what's happened over in Gaza? I played the clip there where it's Dave Rubin saying nothing's they're all faking it. And meanwhile, it's the drone footage of it's like the landscape from Dune. Okay. It's
pour out of wars just the way bloodshed does.
Can I just redirect really quick? I want to make sure that you guys understand. I push back because I want to see the premise of his question. Being concerned about the loss of innocent life and unnecessary escalating collateral damages, there's nothing wrong and immoral about that whatsoever. The question becomes, what's the premise of what you're asking? Which is why I pushed back on, well, where was the anger about what happened on October the 7th? Did you see what he did there? All right? He just started counting bodies as if somehow the Israelis were just sitting there begging for this to happen to them, and they weren't. What provoked this? What provoked this operation? Since 2006, it's funny, those of you that want so-called Palestinian autonomy, in many respects, you sound very much like the neocons you claim to hate, because that's exactly what they believed in, was Palestinian autonomy and Palestinian agency, and the Israelis gave it to them, and they gave them essentially their own state right there on their border, and what they did is turn right around and vote for Hamas, and led to exactly the events that we just saw on.
I am done with that. And the reason being is because, one, they didn't give them own autonomy. They couldn't move around. They simply just pulled out of Gaza and still kept everything blockaded around them. So that's just bullshit. And we've talked about that, which is what, under the 4th Geneva Convention, what the actual legal standing of the people in Gaza is. They don't have any sovereignty. So this kind of bullshit that he's throwing here, and we're going to talk about it. The 6-Day War 1967 had a lot to do with the hostilities that are there today. Before 1967, we weren't, U.S. wasn't really giving much to Israel as far as munitions and support. Since we have been. What happened there in 1967? I think they took over the West Bank. They took over, they went back and got Jerusalem, the Wailing Wall and all that. It's been taken over and has been since then by Israel. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. So you don't just go to throw out years of history. We've got to use these things. These historical circumstances make a difference all the way along. Okay, they did. What provoked 10-7? Yeah, exactly here. I don't know why all the messages aren't coming up on the pop-out thing here, but Mazzarella 1740 said they shot at the life rafts from the Liberty, a war crime, not friendly fire. Yeah. Jordan says, I don't think the cabal is a secret. It's just the Adelsons. Could be. Renal MD said, and all they say is look at the Jews when there is something that doesn't fit the narrative. Well, I don't necessarily, but who's they? Who's they? Who's they? Who is they? That sounds really, 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 well, it would be anti-Semitic at some point. I don't know. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to take a look here. I'm going to play this edit. It's about 20 minutes, but it's a lot of history that goes into it. I took this down. This was from, and so and I took a lot of stuff out, but I think it's important to just sit back and watch this. We got 20 minutes or so of this clip. Okay. It's from this documentary called Dead in the Water. They talk to all kinds of people on both sides. And I think you get a perspective. If it is as the Israelis say, then the incompetence is unbelievable. Rich Lowry, Ben Shapiro both said that they knew the ship was there. There was no notice. Now, Israelis knew the ship was there, but the U.S. didn't notify them that it was there. Okay, so there's a little bit of discrepancies going on here. But I'm going to play this here. Just hang on with us. First of all, go to tyleryonke.substack.com. That's where you're going to find all your fun stuff. I'll let you know about stuff. Maybe we'll watch this full documentary. We do a few members things. We will continue to do those. So there you go. And okay, I think here we go. Hang on with me. The U.S.S. Liberty. I hope we can hear it all.
One summer morning in 1967, a battered American ship pulled into the port of...
I say, well, so let me just restart back here, which is, okay, so that got taken down. And I'm going to have to end up cutting all this out. That got taken down. I think there was a strike basically due to the putting up the documentary, not so much the content. Okay. So I will end up cutting that out and probably reposting that over on the YouTube side just to see what we could. I still think this is an important issue. And when we were walking through some of these questions here and some people saying, you know, as the video is going up, I mean, this is a full documentary, is like what, an hour and a half or so. And I cut it down to 20 minutes. Likely they didn't like that. This is a BBC documentary. I get it, but we're over here on Rumble. I'll nail that out and we'll take care of this. It is interesting though, and I was saying that there were people here that like, look, you've got a small mind for even thinking that it could be anything other than, there's no reason for Israel to do this. And it's like, okay, they're in the middle of the 6-day war with Egypt. This is very important. Look what's happened to them since. Okay, which is they acquired Jerusalem. They've now been able to, before that, we weren't giving them much military aid. Now we're giving them, and we have been. Okay, so it seems like a positive came out of this for them. Even if they're just, you know, McNamara says, well, I didn't recall planes, but there were planes that they all these are all officers in the Navy going on record now saying, one, we deployed planes to attack Egypt. Hello. And we recalled those back. Okay. Yeah. Because you thought Egypt was now attacking American, you know, vessels and whatnot. Whether the U.S. was implicit in this, and there was that Project Cyanide, which I'd cut a bunch of that out as well. You can take a look at. The real issue is, are you anti-Semitic for being concerned that during a time of war, and it does play on, right? We've seen this over and over, which is a country like Israel needs our support, and we are the big bad bully, and they do whatever they want, and we seem to come to their aid. And if they do a false flag, if they're willing to false flag us, what else, you know, what are they doing now? This was back then, right? They got away with it. I mean, they stole secrets. Jonathan Pollard stole secrets. They then sell them to the Soviets. We do nothing. And then we bring them in our embassy recently. So you wonder, and Adelson takes them over there. It's not myopic, and it's not, and how dare you to go here and say it's anti-Semitic for raising these questions, right? And I say that because what you're doing is, when you're doing that and you're watching this video, you're disparaging every single military person that was killed on there, because that's what I'm going to push back on. Oh, you think it's anti-Semitic to bring up the fact that this, and when you walk through the scenarios of mistakes by Israel, it's unbelievable. Now, I'm going to play this quick little, I got a few more little things here to go. Let's play this quick video. This is from history.com. I don't know how accurate, but it does bring up one interesting little aspect. I want to make sure this is the next one. Okay, let's go.
On June 8, 1964, Israel deliberately attacked an American intelligence ship, the U.S.S. Liberty. At about 2 p.m. that day, 2 Israeli Mirage 3s attacked the Liberty with cannon and rockets, and just few minutes later, 2 Mysteers dropped napalm bombs, due to which ship caught fire, and then at 2:35 p.m., Israeli torpedo motor boats fired 5 torpedoes, out of which 1 struck. This attack killed 34 crew members and wounded 171 others. Israel apologized, saying it mistakenly thought that the U.S.S. Liberty was an Egyptian ship, but survivors rejected the Israeli statement and claimed that the attack was on purpose, and they were right, because Israelis first identified the Liberty as a U.S. ship at about 5:15 a.m. that morning. 7 other reconnaissance flights also confirmed the identity of Liberty. During attack, the ship attempted to contact the 6th Fleet, but Israelis were jamming their distress frequencies. According to victims, a huge American flag was waving at the top of the ship, so there was no chance of any mistake.
Okay, there was a bit there, some audio. So that was, to me, a kind of an interesting thing. And I looked into that further, and we did have Haaretz came out with an article in 2017 talking about, and there's a book here about the fact that they did have some of this audio. I did find an audio link about the attack, and Ben Shapiro actually says that, but that is after the fact. I think that was either after they had been torpedoed and there's people in the water and they're like, oh, let's send some help into there. You know why? Because the issue, the ship was not being sunk. They got word out, so there was concern, and at this point, you're going to have to just call it for a mistake. And so, there's I'm trying to see where there was a link here about the quote from the audio, which they had. See if I could find it here. I'm sorry. It's in a book and is recounted. Here you go. I think this is it. Here we go. Israeli pilot to IDF war room. This is an American ship. Do you still want us to attack? IDF war room to Israeli pilot. Yes, follow orders. Israel pilot to IDF war room. But sir, it's an American ship. I can see the flag. IDF war room to Israeli pilot. Never mind. Hit it. Okay. Both the CIA document and the quote have already been published in the past. The book revives them as part of its attempt to prove this thesis. There you go. So there is some speculation as to this. So, okay, there you go. Problematic at best. Okay, I have just a few more little quotes here I want to take up. This one is this guy, this pastor, and he almost seems to kind of want to put the blame on the fact that it's a spy ship. So let's hear the audio on this one is kind of low. Here we go.
Sin. What do I mean by high performance people? The Jews are a talented and hardworking people, and Jewish mothers are always pleased to introduce you to my son, the doctor. But they are also, like the rest of us, sons of Adam, making them dirty, rotten sinners. So if they are overrepresented among the Bolsheviks and the media moguls, just remember that they are also overrepresented among Nobel Prize winners and patent holders. Professing Christians who are backsliding into Jew hate, and it is backsliding, are angry because the Jews don't believe in Jesus. Jews are the enemy, it is thought. But Jesus commanded his followers to love their enemies, which you are manifestly not doing. So why should Jews listen to Jesus if you don't? Last thing, and you may consider this a little bonus round item, I mention it only because I believe it was brought up at this conference earlier. This bonus topic is the U.S.S. Liberty, attacked by Israeli planes in 1967, killing 34 Americans. I'm making no assertions here. All I am doing is noticing. All I'm doing is asking questions, like Candace does, recklessly connecting dots. The Liberty was an intelligence-gathering ship, and LBJ was president. Israel was in the middle of a hot 1967 war. How confident are you personally that there was no American deep state in '67? How confident are you that we weren't playing both sides and feeding intel to Egypt? How confident are you that America can only be double-crossed and can never be the double-crosser? Your confidence in the essential goodness of the CIA is endearing. I want to close by saying, and this is crucial, I want to close by saying that I believe that debates about foreign policy and America's relationship to Israel and what happened to the U.S.S. Liberty or anything like that are totally inbounds and inbounds at a conference like this. Jew hate.
Okay, well then, let's be fine with that. And by the way, I think that there's actually a lot to be said there, because here we go. Here's the spy ship confirmed, and I think everyone actually knows that. That's kind of what they were doing. Let's take a look at this little thing from the survivors themselves.
This Liberty is an intelligence gathering ship.
We could receive any signal that was out there, low band, high band, anything, intercepting it, recording it. And we did have on board some translators who could have immediate translation of what was going on. We would actually bounce signals off the moon back to NSA.
We're spies. I mean, we're intercepting messages from embassies, military bases, police, anything and everything that we could get to ensure that the United States was comfortable with what was going on in the world.
Right, so you can have, look, if the attack, perhaps it was the case, and I'm not anti-Semitic, so you can get mad at me all you want for asking these questions. Perhaps because there was a lot of shit going on, and it was fascinating. If you watch some of that documentary, there's even more where these planes are shooting and just destroying places in Egypt with cameras, but there's no cameras on the planes that took out the U.S.S. Liberty. Shouldn't we be able to see those? I mean, there's, pretty obvious. Why weren't there? There probably were cameras. It looked like Israel had that shit going on all the time, and so there would be there. Yeah, so it's an intelligence. There's other things going on in the region. Perhaps Israel didn't want us to know about, and you're intercepting things. Perhaps. I get it. It's not really a problem to me. Okay, let's one last little item here. Let's see what one of the survivors had to say. I don't know. This guy has been on with Candace and stuff. I think he's quality, but you know, he's given you some reason to wonder.
I'm in San Diego. My wife and I are at the bar getting a drink, waiting for a table. This guy comes up next to me. He says, "Oh, you run the U.S.S. Liberty." I says, "Yeah, how'd you know that?" He says, "I know." And he had a watch, big, like a camera watch. He had it right in my face. I said, "Hey, but get that thing out of my face, you know." And, you know, you just tell me the best thing to do about the liberties, you know, just leave it alone. Just leave it alone. I said, "Who are you, Mossad?" He says, "Yeah." So yeah, that's intimidation as far as I see it. Was he really Mossad, or was he really wasn't? It didn't matter to me. I got the message.
There you go. So I like the fact that he backed down from saying, "Look, I don't know if this is an actual thing here or not." But here, when people were saying recently, why does this matter? This is what Will Chamberlain had said in a tweet here. He's like, let's see here. The fact that U.S.S. Liberty is so regularly gets brought up by right-wing anti-Zionists just demonstrates how weak the right-wing anti-Zionist case is. Martyr made, and it was almost like I did a tweet and then I saw him doing this one. He wrote, "It comes up so often because it's one of the easiest ways to get Zionists to show their colors by twisting into knots to take the side of a foreign country over American servicemen." Absolutely right. And what's most fast, and I even see this in the chat, okay? Oh, if you're anti-Israel, yeah, I'm not pro-Israel. I'm pro-America, and I don't know if there's another country on earth I'm pro. I'm mostly neutral or anti on a lot of those. And this is exactly what I am. So you've got a multiple thing here of why does this matter? One, it matters a lot to the servicemen that we just saw there, like Turney and all these other ones. I mean, if you watch these documentaries, it's littered, especially in the early 2000s when they start to actually talk about this. It's littered with them all saying the same thing. They killed us. They did it intentional. Our flags were up. They strifed us with armor-piercing bullets or whatever from the planes. Then they shot at the rafts. And then they torpedoed us, okay? And we lost 34 people. And then you have the captain saying he feels it's been intentional. You have LBJ at the time saying in a White House note, you saw it on the video there, unless you were on YouTube, it got canceled. He thought it was intentional. Whether it was or not, what we have is there's why this matters. It matters a lot to these survivors, okay? That it was like, you're not believing us. Right? You didn't have our backs at the time. You don't have our backs now. And then they see, and I get it. And if you can't get it, then I don't know what to tell you. But if you have been attacked by a country, and maybe this is why the Gaza things happens as well. If you've been attacked by a country that you feel was intentional, which is what these survivors all feel, you're not going to be a fan of that country. I just guarantee it. We have military people in here. I think Scott, or maybe it was a different, you've talked about, you've served in the Middle East. You're not a fan of either Muslims or Arabs. I get it. Look what John McCain used to say about people in Vietnam. He's not a big fan of that. Yeah, I get it. So does that mean that then we can't have normal relations with these countries because you've been aggrieved in a specific issue in war? No, we can still have normal relations. So that's why it matters to the servicemen. You're not believing them. God damn it. They're like, look, this happened. You're not even believing the narrative, the story that we're telling you. Because if you happen to believe just the little facts that they're saying, it's hard to get over the fact that blunder after blunder after blunder after blunder had to take place for the Israelis to say this was unintentional. Okay? Perhaps it was. All I'm throwing out there is that's the reason why it matters to them. Why that matters to like the Ben Shapiro's and these other ones is so that they could continue to call you anti-Semites. We saw this here in the chat even today. It's like, oh, you don't understand. If you don't, I'm seeing it now. If like, you don't understand about Cyprus, or it's like, okay, bitch, come on. You're calling these people anti-Semites. You're calling the patriots anti-Semites. That is also very fascinating to me, because you have your typical conservatives, the Steve Days, the Rich Lowry's, all these ones that they will put, talk about, not Ben Shapiro so much. You can't ever say anything about the U.S. military, or you're not patriotic. You're not patriotic. How dare you? You're anti-American. But this is one instance that they will get their shorts all in a bunch, call you anti-Semites and whatnot. Why it matters to me is the same reason I think it was a martyr made. It's a litmus test. At this point, if you're getting worked up over it, it says something, I think, about you rather than me. Because I'm not really worked up over the question. I mean, shit happens. We've been down this road before. I feel bad for these servicemen, and I'll say, good job for your service and whatnot. But just because you're a serviceman, to me, doesn't mean that I take your word over everybody else's. Okay, I think your experience matters a lot, and it is important. But it's a litmus test to see the reaction the way you've done. And it's important for me to also do so because you have historical situations. You have the Leo Frank. I want to see how you deal with the situation where your Zionism seems to take over your Americanism or just your rational thought. There's a lot of comments in here about different stuff about like, you have low IQ. It's like, did you not watch any of this? I mean, I know it got shut down on YouTube, but there's a lot of things that come into play, and that even the pastor talking about the deep state and what. Yes, the deep state's been a thing. Okay, countries do things for their own self-preservation, right? And they will always continue to do so. I just happen to keep harping back to the Jonathan Pollard situation because that happened in the 80s, and it continues to happen. So you've got to consider a lot of this and still wonder to yourself, why? So why does it happen? To the victims and their families, they never really got real answers. To the non-victims, it's also important because this is an ally of the United States that attacked the U.S., possibly a false flag. And, to me and to these guys, they were never really held accountable. I mentioned the Jonathan Pollard thing. This is a friendly nation, is it? This is part of the problem you have when you're like, it's a friendly nation. Well, okay. Well, we got Pollard situation. We've got other situations. We spend a lot of money over there. So is it completely a friendly situation? I don't know. But to me, like I said, it's a reaction. It's a litmus test. The response from the Zionists is telling because they don't have to defend Israel anymore on this issue. That's part of it too. Why don't you just take the knee, take this as an L and say, I'm fine with it. If they were more honest, this wouldn't even be an issue. Then you would see the people that are pushing back are probably anti-Semites, okay? Perhaps that it is. But when you have such a vociferous defense and a condemnation of the Americans that went through this, that's when, and to me, you start to see that, okay, this is a problem. Because this is easily, it's an easy one to take the L on. Like I said, My Lai, we talked about that. It's easy to take the L over and over. There's multiple places you can take the L on and just be like, fine, we fucked up. But you can't. As a matter of fact, Israel, some of the people over there seem to be taking the L easier than a lot of the Ben Shapiro types. So there you go. Do we even want to take any comments? I don't know. So I appreciate you all. I hope you have a good Christmas. I don't know what's going on with my voice here today, but I hope you have a good Christmas. I hope you enjoyed this. This was a little deeper dive. I've got things now to do. I've got to go fix it up over in the other YouTube. I'm going to have to cut that out, figure it out. They said it was a warning. Folks. You know what I'm most concerned about? We had over on the Rumble, on the YouTube side, Jim gave $100 donation today. $100. I don't know if I still get that if the stream gets taken down. So Jim, I'll connect with you. I don't want you to make it up if it didn't. I just want to make sure that if it gets taken down and I don't get it, you get your money back. That would be the concern here for me. So let's go to Good King Wenceslas or whatever it is. Hope you guys have a good Christmas. I really do. I hope you don't call anybody anti-Semites anymore. Hope you don't call people names. Let's just be good, old-fashioned people of concern, and love. I think that's all we're going to be able to have to do. All right, until next time, everybody, have a good Christmas. See ya.
Okay, I'm leaving now.
But she's back.
And now.
Tyler, if you had any clout about you, if you had any like knowledge of the real world,
none of us are screaming, "Let's kill Tyler."
Tyler says, "My Jewish princess." You low key, you're one of the funniest dudes like in the like Liberty world that I know.
more or less, eat shit and die. He's just a podunk lawyer somewhere in like rural California. He's an idiot, really.
Takes a tough man to make a tender forecast, Nick. I guess that's me. Keep fucking that chicken.
Do you see what he just did to Tyler? I feel like you don't get the appreciation for your humorous wit.
What are you talking about? I didn't say that. Why don't you argue with something I said, you dumb bastard?